Welcome to Listen Loudly. Today I am speaking with the amazing Alex Hipwell. We worked together years ago. We came back together very recently to do a talk, and after listening to her, I really wanted to get her on here just to speak everything around listening to our bodies, a level of accountability and the building of trust with ourselves that I find is a really important piece to our health and well-being. I really enjoyed this conversation. I'm sure you will too. And I would love to hear what you think. Alex Hipwell, what a delight. How are you?
I'm really good, and I'm so happy to be back on your new show.
Yes, because this is not our first rodeo. It's not our first rodeo in many respects, but I can't even remember what we talked about on Fitness Unfiltered, to be fair. Do you remember what that was? Something about training and
Yeah, training and bodybuilding and dancing and all those,
Yes.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right. I do remember now. And you were talking about the whole dance world and how that had a negative impact, right, on how you saw yourself, etc. So many years have passed since then, and we very recently did a talk together with the lovely Amy Widener of Bold Agency. You did what I can only describe as a phenomenal, absolutely digestible talk on women wellness, and I'm gonna say a very real look at accountability, and in a way that I think many women don't think they have this autonomy over their health sometimes because we are overwhelmed with information. I think you really brought back home just how much control we do have, and you enabled that curiosity for all of them around that. So I'm so happy to be able to chat with you this evening about that. And before you just embrace us all with your brain, one of the things that I hadn't thought about, I guess in additional connections, because obviously we had the Nike connection was the very first time we met and we worked together for many years there. But in relation to your talk around women and wellness and recovery, you've studied under Dr. Stacey Sims, and she and I were on a podcast in 2021 maybe, and we both used to row at university. And I remember in my first year, and looking back, this was in 1997, so it was so ahead of its time, I guess, if we look at where we are now. But we were given a talk about if we trained too much, if we didn't look after our recovery, we may miss our cycle, we may get injured. We just had this wonderful talk on the importance of recovery. And I know that Dr. Stacey Sims had the opposite of that. She also rowed at university, but they weren't given this talk. And that then led to her path of, the work that she does now. And I feel so very fortunate that we did have that talk back in the late 90s, but also that has really informed my approach to training, coaching, my own training and recovery. And now, again, listening to your talk very recently, I now feel so lucky that I had that, and I wish more women had that. And obviously that's now something that you're really bringing to the forefront in your work. So Alex, take it away. You have so much to educate us on. Do you want to introduce any more about yourself, because there's so much to Alex, or do you want to dive straight into the ecosystem that you speak of?
I think there's always something to know about me because, I think I continue to create the woman that I am today from every time you and I see each other or catch up. I've been through some sort of experience, some sort of pain, some sort of whatever it is, which enables me to be, the mum, the coach, the woman, the friend that I am today. And most of my purpose, most of my coaching methods, even my community calls have so much to do with me self-reflecting and me looking in the mirror going, okay, why are we here again? Or, gee, this is great that we're here. And I tell you now, I spent years trying to find who is my niche? What is my niche? And Joss, one day I was like, girl, you are your niche.
Mm,
Every single part of me in the last 20 years, whoever comes to work with me is a version of Alex Hipwell. And this is
mm,
so beautiful to just be able to go, oh, I remember this time. I remember when that
mm.
happened. So who I am today is very different to who I was a couple of years ago. And I've still got a lot of work to do. Um, I think a lot of healing, a lot of things come up, even in my coaching, in my business.
Mm,
And but I'm excited. Like, I'm excited to do the work. I'm doing the hard work, and I'm getting
mm.
really uncomfortable in there, but it's wonderful. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that what you I love that you said that every time something comes up for somebody else, you remember being there, and exactly that you are your own niche because your life experience informs how you
Mm,
work with others, which is amazing. And you're
yeah,
acknowledging that it is really hard work too, because the work always continues if we continue to grow and develop. But also
yeah,
I love that point around um deep reflection and you pointing that out. I just think for so many people, I think it's a hard thing to do because you have to be honest with it. But I think
yeah,
it is so valuable. And I also think that we can spend a lot of time, we're often asked about our younger self, our inner child, our all of those things. And I think, certainly for me, that as you grow and develop as an adult, there are still negative beliefs that are created within that growth process too. So we're often reflecting back on, oh, when I was young, this, da, da, da. And I have in more recent years started to reflect on more immediate things
yeah,
and go, oh, wow, like how did I start thinking that? Um, and so whilst we're trying to work on and heal one part of ourselves, there's another part that could potentially be the reflection in another 10 to 20 years time. So it's this kind of lifespan reflection, if you like, rather than
yeah.
always kind of going down, sort of the years ago route.
Yeah, I think it all kind of connects in a way, and I think the self-reflection at one point you get sick of yourself. Like, you at one
Mm,
point you are so sick and tired of coming back to the same situation, regardless of if it's a whole different situation. You feel again you are the obstacle, and you are clinging to some sort of discomfort. It's like,
yes.
tell yourself the truth. Here I am again, and I'm sabotaging either your business, you're scared of success, which is most women. It's they're so,
Mm,
including myself,
yeah.
absolutely petrified. You see this big dream and you want to get there, and you will sabotage it. And you're overwhelmed, or you're tired, or whatever that reason is. But normally it's
Mm,
connected to some sort of limiting belief that you have
mm,
collected along the way. And maybe it did start as an inner child when you were 8, but you've because of that first one comes the second, comes the third. And you just got to start doing the work. You've got to start not just honing in on the everyday work, hustle and grind of a job.
yes.
That's never going to grow. That's never going to become and blossom, in the way that you want it to, if you don't
Mm,
stop and look in the mirror and say, okay, what discomfort am I clinging to? Where's the immunity of change? What am I scared of? And who do I need to get to
mm,
help me heal this? Because I think when
mm,
you start doing the work and you start connecting back with yourself, I think the self belief system is so important. The confidence, a woman with her femininity, and you can't have that if you don't do all the other work.
yeah. Yeah. And it's
They want
uncomfortable.
it. Yeah, it's uncomfortable, but they, use
Mm,
coaching as a perfect example. They come to me, I want to lose weight. Surface. I was like, that's nice. Why? Yeah, because I want to lose weight. I was like, why? When was the moment? What are you feeling? And she's like, I just want to wear clothes again that I feel good in. I say, okay, this is good. We're getting somewhere. So how
Mm.
do you feel when you have those clothes on? What are the clothes that you want to wear? She said, I have a pair of jeans in my cupboard and there's this thing and this and this. Okay, okay. Where do you want to go when you wear it? Oh, anywhere. I'll go out, probably go on a date. Now we're getting somewhere. We're getting deeper and deeper. Of course, it comes down to confidence. It always comes
Mm.
down to something. Yet we hang around here on this like surface area thinking, I need to lose weight or change the way that I look. But deep down, there's this core value that has been crushed somehow along the way. And unless you
Mm.
stop and really dig for it, you're going to constantly just be
Mm.
chipping away at the top. And that impacts our job. It impacts meeting new people. It impacts, maybe meeting someone amazing in your life and not really getting that great connection or even that job interview
Mm.
because you don't think you're good enough.
Mm. Mm. Just first, very quickly speak about lifting women because we haven't discussed that yet. That's your
Yeah. Lifting
that's your
Women. Lifting
baby.
Women was actually founded in my living room right here on the floor in a pile of tears. I was absolutely stabbed in the back by a business partner. And I'll just like, whisper thank you under my breath because it was just exactly what was supposed to happen. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I fell to the floor and I was absolutely broken. I couldn't understand how someone could help me build such a magical platform to help women feel good and lift women up and then stab me in the back and take it away from me just in a heartbeat, with no communication, no nothing. And I was just absolutely speechless. And then I stood up like a
Mm.
little kid and I had fists. I remember it. And I stood up really tall and I had a high chest. And I said to myself, no. I was like, women lift each other up, they don't knock each other down. And I was like,
Mm.
I want to lift women up. And lifting women was literally what I called it. And that's what happened from there. And I knew where I was going. It was very clear. And to this day, most of my purpose comes from pain, and so it was just kind of like it was perfect. It was powerful.
Mm.
Then from there, it was still just retreats and workshops and bringing women together and kind of creating a space where they can, feel heard and also not feel alone and move, of course, is the basis behind a lot of things that you and I do. Just, I want women to move well. That's what I want them to do.
Mm.
I don't care what it looks like. Let's start moving. And then as Corona hit, actually, I was kind of forced to take my coaching online. And back then was the A team. It wasn't even lifting women. And I was studying with Dr. Stacey Sims. And I'd fallen into a rabbit hole that I continued to dig because it was just so glorious in there. And continue, I'm still down there, by the way.
Deep in the
And
depths.
deep in that little lip. And then it was during the online coaching that I was very quickly started to see the difference between men and women, and that women needed me more. And it was like this cycle. It was like every 3 weeks. And I was like, what is happening here? And maybe I was just observing it in that way because I was studying and I was starting to understand the cycle a little bit more. And I was like, this is like a cycle in itself. These women kind of like, everything's changing. They're super motivated when they come to me. Then they're, the first 2 weeks are great. And then they start to go down again. They lose motivation. I was making videos and sending it to them every 3 weeks going, okay, this is how you're going to feel now, but hang on, stay with me. And that's pretty much how my
Mm.
method started to build. And I was like, And at one point I said, I need to rebrand because women need me more than men now. This is just
Mm.
super important. I need to go down. Rebranded from A Team to Lifting Women 2 years ago. And since then,
Mm.
it's just become, I've continued to kind of build with my community, starting off as a basic fitness and nutrition online coaching platform that turned very, very quickly into mental performance, which I studied last year and became a visualization specialist for athletes
Mm.
and did mental performance. And this was just
Mm.
in itself a beautiful additive to what I do because
Yeah.
it has so much to do with your mind and how, again, what you and I were just talking about,
Mm.
limiting beliefs and believing in yourself. Fitness and nutrition, you can go anywhere. This industry is
Yeah.
flooded. You can go and get a generic program, nutrition plan, everyone's a coach, God, you name it. What sets
Yeah.
lifting women apart is the community aspect. I'm very, very
Mm.
hands on, Monday night calls, accountability, weekly check ins, daily
Mm.
chats, individualized programming for you and where you want to go. But at the end of the day,
Mm.
it's not just about that fitness and nutrition. At the beginning, it's about, okay, let's start building some new habits in your lifestyle. Where are you
Mm.
in your life? So are we wanting to, 30 to 40? Very different to 40 to 50. Very different 50 to 60. Understanding where am I in my life? What's happening with my
Mm.
hormones? How is that impacting me? And then getting them to really understand the lifting women ecosystem, which plays such a big role compared to what women think is, I'm training all the time, I'm doing all my workouts and nothing's happening. How's your sleep? So we
Mm.
bring in this whole other kind of mirror for them to look at and be like, how am I showing up for me? How do I
Mm.
become a CEO of my private life the way that I am of
Mm.
my professional life and of my family? How do I start really
Mm.
honing in on me rather than coming to me when your children are 15 and saying, Alex, who am I? I want
Yep.
to try and prevent that and get them to really start to be a little bit selfish already now. And as I love to live by, which is I am a mum worth modeling in every aspect of my life. You should be able to give your
Mm.
kid your life in a second and be okay with it. And if you're not, then that's the area you need to work on. And that's lifting women.
What do you feel are the biggest barriers to women even acknowledging that in the first place? As you say, first of all, 30 to 40 is different to 40 to 50, which is different, to 50 to 60. Um, and for them to reflect on that, first of all, but for them to also know what that means for them, and then to go, okay, I have to just stop and look at this, almost self data, if you like, and then do something with it. Like, what are the sort of biggest roadblocks that come up for women when you ask them to face that, if you like?
Mm. The biggest roadblocks I notice for the younger ones coming in are not having a regular cycle. They're very sporty. Women who come to me are not beginners, so I don't work with beginners online. They've done some sort of sport. Maybe they've run their first half marathon or they've done a competition, but they're not healthy. All their focus was always on training and
Mm-hmm.
doing that next best thing, and
Mm.
compromising their health to achieve that. For example, moving to disappear is still a really big roadblock when they come to me. Using exercise to run away from either your body, your shame, your whatever you think. So this is something that I do a lot of work on. I have a coach inside Lifting Women who, depending on where you're at mentally, you'll go and work with him first and
Mm.
start building some
Mm.
healthy relationships with triggers. Then you can come and work
Mm.
with me because unless you do the work there,
Mm.
I can't help you. So this has been really beautiful.
Yeah.
So the first roadblock there is having a healthy cycle, having a healthy body, but also a healthy relationship to why you exercise and why you want to make a change. Um,
Mm.
the next block is then women wanting to fall pregnant. Joss, it's like all of a sudden now you want to show up for what your body is really here for. Yet the years before was so focused on, I don't care how I look I need to look a particular way and how I get there doesn't matter. And this was me,
Mm.
right? I want to
Mm.
be thin. I want to be this. I want to be that. I don't care if I don't get my period. I don't want to have kids anyway. Whatever that is, focusing on that. Then all of a sudden you do want to have children and you realize the impact that your actions in the previous years have made. How do I reverse engineer that? Can I reverse engineer that? Sometimes yes, sometimes no, which is
Mm.
really sad. But it's never too late, and that's definitely a roadblock I'm noticing a lot of. As we get a bit
Mm.
older, they start to realize, and this is just due to lack of education, and I feel that the next generation will be a lot stronger, but due to the high intensity kind of focus, the
Yeah.
low fat, the low calories, these ridiculous fad diets, that used to happen, the women who are moving into our age now, the over 40s, are noticing the impact on, bone density, lack of muscle, all of that kind of thing, and not having
Mm.
your period, how that is impacting you now in your 40s, which is hitting perimenopause quite hard,
Mm.
onset osteopenia, osteoporosis and so forth, because you didn't care. We didn't care that we didn't have our period. it didn't matter. We didn't know. We just thought, well, I don't want to have another kid. And we just only related it to pregnancy when actually, estrogen and progesterone are just two gorgeous hormones that play huge roles in brain
Mm,
function, gut health, cardiovascular, and your gorgeous bones. And that, for
mm,
some reason, is not even spoken about or even in
yeah.
conversation during your 30s. So, of course, that is the
Mm,
biggest roadblock that we have when we get to 40 and over. And you're
mm,
like, what is happening to my body all of a sudden? Which feels like an
yeah.
overnight thing. And it's a gradual onset. But unfortunately, because we don't talk about it, we don't think about it, we down regulate little things like a little bit of brain fog or a little bit of belly fat or I'm waking up at 3 a.m. These are all massive, massive red flags that we can actually really
Mm,
support with lifestyle changes before they
mm,
slam you in the face in your 40s. So, depending where
mm,
we look, I would say really focusing on relationships with food and movement in the 30s is the
mm,
roadblock. But I think, it's
mm,
great. We're getting there. And then that
mm.
roadblock over 40 is definitely understanding, oh my God, what I did 10 years ago is no longer working.
Yeah, yeah. And actually, so you answered two different parts for me there, and your very first point was that for some people you get them to work with the other person that you have working for you, and is that like a sports psychologist or somebody like that? Am
He's
I
a
right in
coach and
saying?
a counselor. Yeah, he's a coach
Okay,
and a counselor.
amazing,
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. So that for me is just huge because I think um there's just not enough emphasis on, yeah, as you say, there's just this massive, like, forget about trying to do anything else before we look at the psychology of it all. And you could run yourself into the ground trying to do all of the other things, but if mentally there are blocks there, and there are always blocks. Not to say we're never going to get rid of all of those blocks because they build and they change and they come back and they come in as new forms, but that is a really important first part, is huge.
Yeah.
And then I think that second piece is, and I talk about this so often, and I guess yeah, we are in this we are at the age where we can look back on those different eras of our lives. I guess in the 80s it was the cardio and it was the low fat, and it was all we've been through all of these different, what's popular. Um and through all of it there's been this grasping to find this next thing, and the biggest thing that's been missed is this connection to yourself and your body, and being
Yeah.
mindful of what it needs, when it needs it, how you are impacted by your environment, how, again, through the different ages and stages, things are different. And when I think back to when I was in my teens or whatever, talking about menopause, it was just called the change. And women just brushed it, oh, they're going through the change. And you just knew about
Yeah.
the, feeling a bit hot every now and again. And that was it. And it's this, huge thing that really impacts so many women. But I feel like, not that it would impact them less, but if everybody was more tuned in to their body, to then go, okay, that's a bit different for me. Let me just explore that, rather than feeling this overwhelm of, oh my goodness, I don't know what's happening to me, because many, many women have never taken the time to go, hey, how am I doing? Where am I at? How's my body? And so it feels like, particularly now, in the group of women who are, 40s, 50s, 60s, and the conversations around movement, training, all of those things, it feels like they were also the generation who were just grasping at the low fat, and for heavens, do not strength train because you'll get really bulky. You know what I mean? And now they're all like, I must strength train, I've been told. And, you know, you and I are sitting here like, we've been trying to tell you that for years, but never mind. You know? And it's like it's this massive revelation, but actually it's always been that. But we've had to fight against the perception of what that is. And also, you know, the fitness industry and the trends and the fads and all of those things. And I think we can both agree that we've always stuck to the basics and they haven't changed in years. Exactly. And there's nothing new and shiny. The new and shiny thing is you and your relationship with yourself. That's the thing to chase with all of your might, you know?
Oh, I love that you even bring that up, because we will always try and find the quick fix or the latest thing that's happening, or what is she doing, and looking right and left, and too scared to look in front in the mirror and just go, how are you today? What's happening in my body today? And how can I best show up to work with my body today? Because every single day you are hormonal across your entire cycle. And there's not that, are you hormonal or she's hormonal? Like, I can't hear that anymore, because we are always hormonal. And starting to understand, when are my powerful days? When are my not so powerful days? When am I my most creative? I mean, has anyone ever said that? And I know that everyone listening, and especially every woman, will be like, oh my God, like I do have these days where I'm super creative and I've got lots of ideas. Or even if you want to put it into movement, there are days where you train and you could probably go for a run again in the afternoon. That's a powerful day. That's a day to utilize and really like jump on that and really go with it. Make sure that you're fueling correctly, because you are maybe, you know, training a bit more. Or if it's a creative day, put it in there and really go for it. But then comes those days that they might not be so powerful, but it's still an okay day. Yet we just like put ourselves down. What's wrong with me? Yesterday I was so good. I did 2 training sessions. Today I can't even get out of bed. And then you maybe cry at the drop of everything. You know, why am I like this? Track your cycle. Understand that there are going to be days like that and days that maybe are a bit more flat. But give yourself that permission. If you're not an athlete ready to compete, you know, you're capable of performing in any given day of your cycle, whether it be performing in the office, whether it be performing, you know, in the gym. But you need to understand you to be able to move the puzzle around and go, okay, this is not a great couple of days for me in my cycle. I need to really focus on sleep. I need to make sure that I'm eating correctly, but I'm going to put my training session in 2 days when I'll probably get more out of it than just like trying to grind against something that you can't physically do. It's not your body, it's your PMS that's impacting your body. But still, if you don't have to push against it, why are we doing that? You know, why are we doing that? So really, I'm getting women more and more to just be, I'm not asking you to be lazy. You know when you're being lazy and when you're, you know, when you're actually listening to your body and going, okay, I feel it. We all feel it. There are just days that are heavier than others. So I'm going to focus more on other things in my ecosystem and make sure that I look after that so that I can show up a little bit better tomorrow or the day after.
And so can you talk to that, Alex, like a brief synopsis of when you might feel more powerful, when you might feel, you know, more creative, and also how to support the days when you would feel less so? Because I think that, you know, one of the things that I feel about the cycle piece is, for, you know, let's say for elite athletes or professional athletes, if their competition day is in a low phase, like they have that, you know, what are they then going to do to support themselves through that? Because I must confess, I will, and this is where, you know, when I'm coaching, I will always say, meet yourself where you're at today. And I think that's the fastest way you get to wherever you want to go to, right? And so I'm sure that naturally I will do that whilst I'm training. I don't necessarily think about it during my cycle, and I do track my cycle. I've tracked my cycle for years. But I probably won't even make that association. I'll just be like, oh, how am I feeling today? Yeah, cool. This is what I'm doing. Or sometimes I surprise myself. But I also know that so many women are like, oh my gosh, I'm in this phase, I'm not going to be able to do anything. Or, oh my gosh, I'm in this phase, I should be able to do everything. And what happens when that doesn't I guess what I'm trying to say is there a level of flexibility around it where, again, we're not fighting against ourselves to make this thing perfect? Because for me, information about yourself for yourself is hugely powerful. But I still think that a lot of women will berate themselves if they then don't get a PB in the powerful days, or they don't just go, oh, well, what's the point in the low days? Sorry, I had a million questions in one there.
No, I love this. I think it's really important because I still see on social media with like influencers posting phase 4, do yoga and
Did you say influencers?
Yeah, I said influencers.
Did you say influencer?
Influencers. They're influencers on social media for me. Sorry.
I have expired.
They're like a virus. I'm like, no. So this is such a great question. Let's really just debunk it. First of all, there is just not enough data out there at all yet to say that we can generically phase base our training, right?
Amazing.
Every single woman has a unique hormone profile. Only you can track your cycle, either with your coach or on your own, and know when are my powerful days and when are my not so powerful days. Now, moving all of that aside, if we go into the science of it, you as a woman are capable to perform on any given day of your cycle. That means if we look at your strength output, if we look at your speed, your lactic acid threshold, your VO2 max, if we were to test all of those like science things on any given day of your cycle, will be the same. Now, this is really important to understand. And even if you are not super sporty, whatever, it shows that you are capable of doing your 3K run or your whatever on any given day of your cycle. So be related to you wherever you're at. Now, what comes into play here is your PMS. So your PMS symptoms are what have the negative impact on you. So for example, if I can perform on any given day, but I have this extreme estrogen headache the day before I get my period, am I going to do a great performance? Probably not. Am I going to have a great interview? Probably not, because I have this banging headache. Or if I've got cramps, or if I've got that, that heavy feeling between your legs that you get, or lower back pain or hamstring pain, whatever that you get in regards to your PMS, this is the negative impact that has on your performance. Hence, you don't want to go to the gym. Or 2, you don't want to go to work. Or 3, you're just not going to perform at your best. Now, understanding this is why it's so important to track your cycle. Because when you understand when your powerful days are, when you have, for example, headaches or cramps or so forth, this is where we bring in lifestyle changes. And a lot of the time it's going to come down to rest and recovery and sleep, and your nutrition. Now, women just don't eat enough. Unless you've got somebody tracking your nutrition, what you're eating in the front end of your cycle, which is phase 1 and phase 2, most women keep that the same as we move into phase 3 and 4. Now, as we move into phase 3 and 4, we've got a catabolic hormone that's just like skyrocketing. So it's breaking tissues down. Hence why we're getting these cravings. But we're like, oh no, I'm getting my period. I need to eat chocolate. You need to increase your calories. You need more food because your body is in a breakdown state. It's building lining in your uterus so that, you can, it's all about the baby. Doesn't care about your training, doesn't care about what goals you have in your life. It cares about having a baby. So we need to support our body that way. And what I've noticed is by increasing the women I work with, by increasing their calories from let's say day 14 to the day that they bleed, I have reduced cravings. I have increased performance. We get PRs in phase 3 and phase 4 as well. So you're really supporting that catabolic state that the body's going through. Cravings drop down, because your blood sugar level's all over the place. You can eat something extra if you want to, but focusing on fueling in and around the activity you're doing, not fasting, but also having an intra workout, putting some carbs in your water to really support that during that time when your body's utilizing more fatty acid than carbohydrates, which is what happens as we move into higher hormone. So I think
Mm-hmm.
what I'm trying to say here is, in the front end of your cycle, it is a great time to really stick to nutrition. Your immune system is also super strong at this time. You might find you have more powerful days during this period. Utilize those if you can. Really enjoy them. You're going to sleep really
Yeah.
well. You're going to have a great mood. This is a really nice time to utilize, and you are a bit more like a man in regards to recommendations that are on, medication or supplementation or training and so forth. But as we do move over our ovulation day, which is day 14 or in and around that time, you are going to notice a lot of different changes. And this is where people used to say we're very hormonal, even though you're hormonal all the time. This is where we notice the most changes: mood changes, disturbed sleep because the core body temperature is increased. Therefore, we know that
Mm.
recovery is going to be impacted. Yet you keep
Mm.
pushing the way you were the week before. Don't compare yourself to the week before. Compare yourself to the cycle before. What was happening
Mm.
to me in phase 3 in the cycle before? Maybe I need a bit more
Mm.
sleep. Maybe I need to train Monday,
Mm.
Tuesday, have Wednesday off, because progesterone is a catabolic hormone. And this is a little bit where we feel a little bit down. We could feel flat, but you can increase your nutrition here and you'll notice massive mood changes that will really support you. And whereas in the phase 2, when this estrogen surge is high, what a beautiful anabolic hormone to work with. Do we have enough data
Mm.
here? Probably not, but we do know it's an anabolic hormone. So let's increase and focus on
Mm.
protein. Let's lift some weights here. Let's really push the weights in the
Mm.
gym. You can do
Mm.
this. But
Yeah.
again, do you work out what's good for you? And the performance thing that you mentioned about having, like my athletes or the coaches that I work with and support their athletes in and around their cycle, is by tracking your cycle and training with your cycle leading up to the competition, knowing full well we can perform on any given day. We know
Mm.
really well when our powerful, not so powerful days are. We've given ourselves
Mm.
extra recovery when needed. So if we have an athlete
Mm.
who's like, I really suffer really badly on my period, then leading up, and she's got a competition on that day, we're probably going to rearrange her recovery leading up to that point. She might have an extra
Mm.
recovery day leading up, right?
Mm.
She might train a little bit differently because we've been practicing that through her training. And she
Mm.
mentally knows, this
Mm.
is a big part too. She mentally knows, I can lift that weight. I can race that race. I can run fast. My body's
Mm.
capable. I've done everything that I need to do. I've increased carbohydrates. I've had an extra rest day. I've focused on my sleep hygiene so that I can perform on any given day. And you just do your best on that. But you mentally don't
Mm.
get this fright of, oh my God, it's my period and I can't do this and I get cramps. You're like, no, I've got this because I've been training for this. That's what it comes down
Mm.
to.
I love that so much because I think that, um, since we've been talking about, training around your cycle more, or not even training around, it's not even training around your cycle, is it? It's being aware of your cycle and how you are around it. Um, I think that what I hear more often than not is, oh yeah, well, I'm at this stage, yeah, so I don't feel great. And it's just this kind of succumbing to it and this acceptance rather than, and cool, if that's what you want to do, like, great. But for me to know that actually I can still support myself through this, and for women to understand that is huge. Like it's I wish and I understand that this is not feasible for everybody, but I think the most wonderful thing would be for each of us just to study ourselves for a year. How am I here? How does this feel? And of course, there's a requirement of, keeping the variables the same to a degree. And of course, that's not always possible. But what about if you were also able to, be mindful of those variables, and at different points in the year or the month or whatever, that they're different, that you had this kind of like detail and understanding about yourself for yourself, that is just it takes, of course, we need doctors, we need all of those people if we have something that needs to be treated. But I think that we miss just how much we can do for ourselves simply by just writing it down, being aware. It doesn't, I remember, at one of the Women in Fitness summits that I did, and I was talking about sort of tracking things down, and I don't know if you've found this, but some people find tracking stuff a stressful thing. So one girl was like, well, I understand that I have to track all of these things, and now I have all of these different things that I track, and I don't know what to do with it. It feels like too much. And I just said to her, well, just then mark everything out of 10. Keep it super simple. I've got 3 out of 10 here, or I've got 7 out of 10 here. Like, the ease at which we make things more complex than they need to be is quite common. And then also I understand that for many people, tracking something like food can be complex, can have a history to it, can have a, and I guess that's where it comes back to the chap that you have working with people, the counselor, to sort of look at that element too, because they're both, that we can't have one without the other. Understanding the mindset piece, understanding those blocks, and getting to know yourself again, really getting to know yourself. And I think as well, one of the things that we talked about earlier was kind of either those mental blocks or a level of healing that you have to do from when you were younger, or various experiences. But I think that we sometimes, and I hear it a lot, and I even think it myself too, that sometimes you think, okay, I'm done with all of that therapy, I'm done with all of that work, but actually there's this really wonderful other side of getting to know yourself that isn't just undoing stuff that has harmed you or has had a negative impact on you. There's this whole new world of getting to know yourself that is new and fresh and exciting. And I wish that people were excited for it, because I think it just opens up so much for everybody if they embrace that. And to that, there has to be a level of, self-acceptance of where you are now, the good, the bad, the whatever. Like, this is where I'm at. Cool. Let me work with what I have. Let me work with the resources that I have right now in front of me and see what happens. Like, this beautiful curiosity that if we just allowed ourselves to delve into is magical.
I love what you just said then. I think that all for me just bubbles into, self-acceptance. And as women, one of the basic things I always get them to do, is the high five in the mirror, right? And we had this community call, and it was just gorgeous because some of the women were like, I can't do it. And I said, I told you. Some women you'll find it's so easy, and other women are going to really struggle. There's a lot of dust between you and that reflection. And what you were talking about before, with the connection to tracking, for example. Now, this is very common. This is going to stop women from even getting a coach to help them, because out of fear, they're like, I don't track, I don't weigh myself, I don't do any of that, because, I had a really unhealthy relationship with it. I ended up controlling, and they get really aggressive. And I'm like, okay, so when you bake a cake and you need a cup of something, do you use a measuring cup to make that? Yes. I said, okay, so why do you use a measuring cup to do that? Well, I need the cup to make I said, okay, so it's a tool to get you where you want to go. The same as tracking, the same as weighing yourself. So what Will does is, when he comes in, is, as women, we tend to, this trigger comes up, right? Whether you be overeating, whether you be standing on a scale, whether you be tracking numbers, and we try and suppress it and get rid of it. And we're like, that means that I'm falling back into my old habits. And why is this voice coming forward? And he turns that around. And because this was me as well, like growing up with bulimia and, you name it. He's like, that trigger will always be next to you. Embrace her and start to build a healthier relationship so that when she comes, you're like,
Oh,
oh, how come you're here again? What's been happening? Oh,
mm,
that's been happening. And you become so aware and observe your thoughts rather than going, I'm a failure, I'm really bad, which is what we do straight away, that self-sabotage, and that's going to stop you. And
yes.
that's that immunity of change comes in. And this has just been for me
Mm,
watching these women work with Will and then work together with me and my coaches. Joss, I'm sitting here going, it's the
mm,
relationship that we build, this new gorgeous relationship with this
mm,
beautiful trigger that is a part of who we are. She will
mm,
always stand next to you. You are you because of all your gorgeous experiences. And when you learn to
yeah.
embrace those and be like, this like stressful emotional eating, whatever your triggers are, the scale, oh yeah, so when I weigh my food, it's taking me where I want to go, which is this beautiful goal of, as a woman, eating more protein or having enough carbohydrates or whatever those things are. I need to know how much I'm putting in my body because this is where I'm at in my life, rather than
Mm,
controlling and disappearing because of food and being in the deficit and whatever that negative relationship is with the scale. This has just
mm,
been so gorgeous for self acceptance. And
yeah.
like you always say, meeting myself where I'm at today. Where am I today? And getting
Mm,
crystal clear on where you want to go. This is really important too.
mm,
Rather than being stuck here, focusing on the past, which is just pure depression, focusing too far on the future, being anxiety, going, okay, meet myself where I'm at. I've got a coach, I've got a plan, I've got a beautiful vision for my future self. I'm friends with her. I know what she needs, so I know how to show up today to align with who she is. And that means tracking
mm,
some of my food so that I'm a bit more aware of
mm,
what I'm putting in my body and honoring my body so that I can do what I want to do and feel the way I want to feel. And this is just, I think,
mm.
so important these days rather than just getting a nutrition plan and a training plan and making the same mistakes in 3 weeks. Because women will say it. They'll be like, oh, yeah, but this is the time where I normally fall off the wagon. Okay, let's sit here. Let's sit here and
Mm,
find out what this feels like.
mm. I love that.
Yeah.
And so you're also giving new meaning to um and you said it exactly right. This they're trying to suppress the old them or who they were at that time. And actually what they need to do is develop this new relationship with them moving forward, with their acceptance of who they were and how to meet those two people in this moment to move forward together so that older version of them brings the trigger so that the newer version of them goes, oh, hey, old friend, you're informing me here about something. Let's work through this together. Oh, how
Yeah, got new
lovely.
tool. I got new tools under my belt. So, and even
Yeah.
for myself, I use myself as a perfect example. I was also, emotionally eating or overeating, binging or whatever through bodybuilding, through dancing, whatever it was. That voice never leaves you. Anyone who's
Yeah.
been there and experienced this will agree with me and be nodding. The voice will never leave you. It's the relationship that you
Mm,
build with that voice or that trigger
mm,
that becomes so healthy and so beautiful. And you can almost regulate your nervous system because you get this very rigid nervous system. You feel it's like this, like like the sympathetic nerve. It's very rigid and you go into fight or flight, right? And you think it's an interesting feeling and you can just self regulate and
mm,
just breathe and just be where your feet are and be like, I'm okay, I'm safe, I've got my tools, you're just the trigger, and we're learning to love each other again. And I'm going to make the
mm.
next step's going to be good. Maybe the next step isn't good. Maybe you do something that probably doesn't align with who you want to be. But then you can learn from that. And that's just a
Yeah.
step in it's your story. But I do believe that, working like this a bit more and working with so many women has enabled me to observe behaviors and be able to signpost and bring coaches in where I feel um, that it's needed for them to really come to me and go, okay, I've been to 3 other coaches. I always end up in the same spot. I really want to understand my body. I want to work with
Mm,
my body, whether it be understanding my cycle, my hormones, accepting who I am, and sitting with those things, whether they be symptoms of perimenopause, and not blocking it, but going, hey, Alex, I've really noticed in the last week in my check in, brain fog is really high. I'm sleeping really badly. So I just went for a walk and I just did this. What's going on? And I'm like, okay, we're in phase three, which seems to be interesting in perimenopause for some reason. I have no data other than my women, but I'm noticing that phase three becomes weird. What's happening here? How can we make
mm,
some lifestyle changes to support you and meet you where you're at? Rather than the other woman going, here we go again. I can't sleep. I've got to get to work. You know, this sabotaging of like scared of like it's almost like scared of losing your job or being rejected or having a divorce or you know whatever it is. Rather than going sit back, sit with it, ask Alex or ask my coach. This is what I've just observed. What do I need to change to be able to support my body
mm,
and meet myself where I'm at? And this is powerful. I mean, this is so
mm.
empowering.
Mm, I love that. And I think also one thing that feels like, because we do can will continue to always have that sort of reaction, as you say, that knowing yourself, sitting back, going, okay, cool. What I find is, and so what I've tried to incorporate for myself, because it's often when we're going through the more negative phases that we're like, let me what's wrong with me, what's
Burn the
happening,
house down.
and when life is great, you're like, woo, I don't even have to check in on anything. But that's where I think that the a regular self reflection process, whatever that looks like, whether you do it in the morning, whether you do it in the evening, is just it almost informs you ahead of time, so you're almost
Mm.
ahead of yourself. And it's just taking a few minutes just to, as you say, how am I today, how was today. And one thing that I've done recently also is, if something's gone really really well, sometimes you can just bask in the like, oh, it's so amazing, I'm thrilled. Okay, what made it go well? What was
Oh, I
the
like that.
environment in which you were in that thing worked? Why did it work? What were the variables around it? How can I try and support myself again by providing those things? But we get, as I say, caught up in the this was amazing emotion and just basking in that good feeling, or this is so awful, typical, instead of removing the emotion out if we can, leaning into the what made that good, what made that not so good, what can I do
Oh,
about that?
I love this.
You know?
We do a lot of self-reflection. I mean, the check-ins that I have due to accountability, I really created that like a self check-in. You know, like how was your sleep? There's like a little emoji. Where are you in your cycle? What could you have done better? What were you doing well? You know, that kind of like just checking in with yourself.
Mm,
And you
mm,
almost self-observe and you're like, oh yeah, actually last week was not so good and why? Or that last week was great. I had a really great week last week. Oh, probably because I was sleeping so good, I was able to do this. And
mm,
I love that. And it's, what's interesting when you said this was we tend to look at others and go, how was your day? Tell me about your day. Why don't we do that to ourselves? Why don't we sit there and like
mm,
look in the mirror and be like, how was your day today? I mean, that would
mm,
be so good, wouldn't it? You just take a moment and be
mm.
like, "Hey, girl, how was your day
Yeah.
today? Where was it good? Like, how was your nutrition? And did you have what was your highlight today?" We tend to ask other people.
Mm.
I think that
Yeah,
might
yeah,
be nice to
yeah.
just kind of like check in.
A little ad, exactly. And then
Yeah.
so I've got two more pieces. I have
Okay.
just obviously devoured this conversation so far. One thing, the sleep thing, I think it's a really big thing. I think it's something that everybody knows, that they ideally probably should have more of. I'm also very mindful that that can then feel stressful for people to hear. Um,
Mm.
and one of the things that I think around sleep is if you're not getting the ideal amount, whatever that is, 7 to 9 hours or whatever, to try and um, at least improve the quality of the sleep that you're getting. So let's say, I wouldn't want for somebody who's getting 6 hours sleep a night to go, well, it's just, I'm not going to get any more. So therefore I'm screwed, to
Yeah.
then go, okay, still, what can I do here? Can I not, and it's this, and it's the stuff that we hear, and it's not very exciting. It's not very sexy, but yeah, not being on your phone before bed, as we heard at the talk the other day, and I thought this was brilliant. And I haven't yet applied it, but I'm going to. About having a dim light in your bathroom before
I,
you go to bed. You're invariably
I
brushing your
know.
teeth with that big old bright LED light or whatever, and your body's like, "Bing, hi, where's the party?"
I
And it was
love that
just,
too. I'm doing the same.
a little dim light in the bathroom to just have that slow mood. Another thing I have on my phone, which I don't always adhere to, but we're all a work in process. We listen, we don't judge. Um, is I have a little kind of a reminder to tell me to start getting ready, you know, for bed. But so I think a big one on sleep, because it's huge. But or if it's people who are working, night shifts or whatever, to again do what you have with the resources that you have right now. If you're getting 6 hours sleep, how can you make those 6 hours sleep the best 6 hours that you can get, outside of somebody who needs to be treated for insomnia or any of those things that need more interventions or changes or whatever. It's still, I guess, always looking at how can I do the very best with what I have now, because it's also
Yeah.
easy to go, well, yeah, I'm not getting that sleep, so yeah, I'm fucked.
Yeah. I mean, sleep is, as what you just said. I really love everything, and I echo everything that you just said. And I know that, when people say, oh, but I just don't, I can't, I've got 3 kids or I've got this. Okay, what do you have, and how can we work with that? And what are some
Yeah.
small changes that you can do to really, get that better quality? And that are what you just said, which I love, this new dim light in the bathroom. Let's all do this. I love that idea. Get off your goddamn phone. Like,
Yeah.
seriously, put your phone down. You are an adult. Put the phone down. That's one thing. And
Yeah.
then, put a mask on, whatever it is. Um, for women, know your cycle. This is so important. Know your cycle. Why? Because when we are in higher hormone, our core body temperature is increased. Therefore, our sleep is going to be disturbed. How can we support that? Tart cherry juice. Don't take melatonin. Take tart cherry juice in water. It releases a natural melatonin in your brain. You might only get the 6 hours, but if you were to track, the REM is
Mm,
so much deeper. Like, it's
mm,
crazy. It's really crazy. So there's some small things that you can do. Um, and I think knowing that it's important for you, knowing that if you don't sleep enough, or have a good quality or a good hygiene in and around the hours that you can actually sleep, it's going to impact every other part. It's going to impact your nutrition. It's going to impact your mood. It's going to impact your training, your recovery, and your mindset. So, again, you are an adult. So, if you choose or you are unable to get enough sleep and you've noticed that, then please rearrange your next day so that you can focus on everything else that needs to be focused on for you to feel good as a human. Don't go and do a hardcore training session when you have not slept well. And if you haven't eaten well, go and have a good meal before you go and do a training session if your sleep was off. So just take a step back, be an adult about it, and think of almost how you would treat a child. You wouldn't force them, if they were really tired, to go and do, a training session, right? You would say, let's have a good meal, let's get you in the bath, and let's get you down, have a little sleep. Why not
mm,
apply the same thing to you? There's nothing new there. We just don't do it. It's the same as sleep hygiene. Adults are crap. When you look at children, it doesn't matter how busy you are or how many children you have. You create the most gorgeous sleep hygiene for them, and it's the same every single night. give or take, I understand, as they get a bit older. But we do have that beautiful bath time, bubbles and
Mm,
warm water. We get fresh clothes, fresh nappy, if that's the point. A nice dinner.
mm,
We sit together. Then we go into the room and we read them a book with dim lights. We
mm,
prepare them for the evening. We create this gorgeous sleep hygiene. Yet when it comes to us, then we go and sit on the couch, snack on something ridiculous, watch something that's just like, because you feel like it helps you zone out, and then you go to bed and you complain the next day. That's okay. Just remove the complaining part because you chose to do so.
mm. Yikes.
I'm
Did you
pretty
hear that,
adamant on
everyone?
this. It makes me a little bit, it's fine. If
But
you
it's
choose
it's
to do
very
that, then
true.
don't
We do
complain.
create this. We create this really, first of all, consistent environment for our kids to do
Yeah.
that, or anyone that we're caring for, and to a degree, I also think it comes down to a little bit of a self-worth piece. You are worthy of that same level of attention and care for yourself,
Yeah.
and that impacts all of the other areas of your life. It really is. It's that self-worth piece. It's that self-acceptance piece. I, deserve to really love on and care for myself and be as rested as I can be, and I trust myself to do that. It's
Mm.
building a really trusting relationship with yourself as well. And that's not to say,
Yeah.
listen, I will sit on that couch and snack on whatever. That's not to say that
Yeah.
you can't. We're not saying that, but it's just, what would it look like to have a really lovely evening? And equally, again, if you've been working your tail off all day, you just get the kids into bed or whoever you're caring for, and then you're zonked and can't even maybe take the time when you can, when you have a moment, to go, what if that was just a tiny bit different? What would that
Mm.
look like? It doesn't have to be a massive change, but it's just what if I did, what if I had a little tea? What if I lit a candle? What if I just a tiny shift
Or
to
even,
to sink into?
take responsibility for the choices that you make. And if you notice that you're feeling really off and you're just not showing up the next day in other areas of your life due to the choices that you've made because of your sleep, then just pull yourself up a little bit and say, do you know what? The next 2 nights, I'm really going to focus on sleep. I'm going to go to bed earlier. I'm going to do this.
Mm,
Because if you're someone who does
mm,
like to, I'm not going to take that away from you, but just take responsibility for the choices that you make and just be aware that, be a bit more flexible and say, okay, I need to have a couple of
mm,
nights of really good sleep so that I can feel better again. Because it's
mm.
sleep. If your sleep is off, you're going to feel crap.
Oh, yikes. I was trying to give you the soft blow, the soft serving there, but Alex was like, no.
Nope. Mm-mm.
And then finally, this podcast is called Listen Loudly. And I want to know, when you listened loudly to yourself so you could be heard by others.
You know, when I listen, I think it was, I have to say, I did something last week. I got out of my own way. I Something happened, a choice that I made that just annoyed me. And I was like, I can't do this on my own anymore. What action step do I need to take so that I can continue to like grow and be the woman that I want to be? And I swear to God, I don't know if this is how you want that question answered, but the first thing that comes to my mind is I finally heard myself and what needs to be done for me to become the woman that I desire to be, to dream to be. And I've been in my own way,
Mm,
thinking that I can do, hyper independent, can do everything on my own, and it'll slowly, roll into what it is. But I stopped and I listened and I heard myself, and it was loud, clear,
mm.
and very painful. And I took a step in a direction of healing, I guess you could call it. And I never felt more excited than I do right now.
I
Yeah,
love that. I love
yeah.
that. I love that. I love that. That is very beautiful. Well, I'm looking forward to how that transpires over the coming months, years. Alex, thank you so much. It's a really beautiful thing to I think we love and appreciate how each other has grown over the years that
Yeah.
we've known each other. And one of the things that I said, when we did the talk, and thanked you for, particularly when you're presenting, you own that stage. And when I first started, public speaking, if you will, I didn't in that same way. And I watched you do that. And I thought, oh, God, I've just got to own what I have to say. So I want to thank you for that. But I think, it's just, yeah, like I say, I think we mutually enjoy each other's growth, and what that looks like. And we have stayed very true to ourselves within that process. And it just feels like a really special thing. So thank you for that. And
Thank
thank you
you.
so much for doing this. And like I say, I'm so excited for what's to come for you. That is very exciting to hear that your listen loudly moment was very recent. So I'm excited for that. And just thank you so much for coming on and talking with me.
Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I feel exactly the same towards you, and just watching you grow and create the woman that you are. I feel like from the sidelines, as one of your biggest cheerleaders, is just so beautiful to watch. But to also get to share moments with you is things that I really treasure. So thanks for having me on this show. And yeah, I'm excited too.
Amazing. Thank you, my love. Lots of love.